Today's session is we're going to be looking at data protection and the risk associated with cloud computing, and doing the security. Does the security risk actually outweigh the benefit from working from home? I have a panel. Okay, just to start for myself, I'm the moderator. My name is Harry Boje. I've had have a background in IT. For the last 5 years, I've been working in data protection. I've worked as data protection officer, as a GDPR consultant, and all that. And yes, data protection has been all my life in the last 5 years. I have some couple of certifications. I'm a certified DPO. I'm also a certified CRIX, and a professional, a CSAM, and other qualifications that I don't want to bore you with. I have a couple, about 5 of distinguished panelists here. We'll be discussing this topic. And to start with, I have Anthony. Anthony is let me get his profile properly to introduce him properly. Just bear with me. Yes, Anthony is he's a seasoned IT security professionals. He has multiple certification in both discipline. Anthony has worked in the health sector, utility, law enforcement, lottery, and the gaming industry, and as well as in the education sector as well. He has around 34 years of applied experience and volunteering in this area. He has also worked on the standard, the Canadian standard, the Council of Standard Council of Canada. Is a committee member of that IT security cloud as well. He has a lot of experience in cloud security, so we'll be able to get a lot of experience from him. He holds a certification as a CISSP, which is a certified security professional certification there. He's also a member of the disaster recovery of the Institute of Canada Certification Committee. I have Abdul Malik. Abdul Malik is also experienced in information security, which is the ISMS. He's a manager currently at KPMG in Luxembourg. He's a professional service in a professional service firm, providing auditing tasks and advisory services. While I have with you here as well, Amalia. He's a passionate privacy enthusiast also in IT, risk, and information governance and management. Amalia worked with chief privacy and compliance officers, and also with CISOs in the health, pharmaceutical, banking, and telecom sector. And also, I want to introduce you also Manuela. She has around 15 years experience in project and program management in IT for gaming. Has worked in gaming sector, banking, and insurance. Also, telecommunication industry. She's certified as a data protection officer. She's offered consultancy services for GDPR compliance and has implemented a lot of projects as well. And also, Dr. Raf is also a lead in his team. He has led around 35 data protection specialists and served in the international corporations with data protection consulting and the appointment of a DPO. He has been a specialist for applied data protection and IT security since 1993. And he is a passionate, he has a passion in control and profitable use of data. I want to welcome you, all of you, to this session, and I hope we're going to learn a lot from you, to gain from your experience. So let us just kick off by basically looking at what data protection is. Since this pandemic period, we've seen a lot of working from home. And then we just want to drag on from your experience, what you've seen out there, and what you envisage might happen moving forward. So we just want to pick up by starting from what are the risks and challenges of cloud computing, basically. So I want to start with, say, Anthony, if you want to share your experience on that. You got, anybody can come in to discuss what we have on the screen, but we'll just try to take it one after the other. So Anthony, could you just share your experience, or what you've seen that are the challenges so far when we look at cloud computing?
Sure thing. As you can see in my background picture, it's full of clouds. Because there's a lot of cloud out there. One thing we're seeing a lot of is a huge risk around the current work environment with people working remotely and not having direct access to a localized IT support team or security support team. So they feel like they're safer working at home in some ways, but they're kind of cut off from the core infrastructure that would normally support them in their workload. So we're seeing a lot of incidents of successful attacks through email, successful attacks through credential theft, and typically they're coming in through phishing attacks, either text-based, email-based, or something similar, and sometimes drive-by on websites, but not as often. It's usually the old standards that are coming in, the old standard attack vectors. So the risks that I'm seeing and I'm responding to a lot, in fact, we have a major event here in the region I live in, Canada, just occurred on the weekend related to this topic. So I respond a lot to these types of incidents where there's been a compromised internal user within the organization who then becomes the pivot point of the attack vector for the outside attackers to come through. And that is related in part to cloud usage, because a lot of these clients that we're dealing with rely heavily on cloud services like O365, Azure-based systems, AWS-based systems. And because of that ability to use those cloud services, they can work from anywhere, but it doesn't mean they've taken the necessary steps to secure themselves in that kind of environment, that sort of remote working environment. So a lot of that going on right now in my part of the world.
Okay, thank you for that, Anthony. Does anybody want to have just?
Can I add to that because of the pandemic, the emails are actually even more cunning and vicious. So I have received a PayPal email, so unrelated to work, that told me that they've locked my credit cards down. So that was the first bell, because I only have one credit card in that account, and it was in plural. But it was so well written and so official. I've checked it up and down. And then I decided, because I was reading it on my phone, and I think that's the other aspect of it. Where do you review these emails, right? They could be so much more deceiving on different devices. So I actually separately went and used my computer, logged into my account. Nothing was wrong, of course, nothing was wrong. But I think there's a compounded effect with the pandemic on these phishing emails, and in particular in countries, excuse me, not in Canada, because we've been working from home quite a bit, even before the pandemic. But there are countries where the culture of commuting to work has been like, 90%, 95% of people would commute to work. That was a known environment. They come home and everything is unknown, including the technology. So people are frustrated, they're tired, and they're going to start to make mistakes.
Yeah, I think you're right, Amalia. There, I think I've had such series of email from Amazon, from PayPal, and from other cloud providers. So, like you said, if you're looking at it from a different device, and you're not, clever enough to look at how it is written, the maybe the logos, there are some changes in it. If you don't look at it in your computer, you are tempted to click on it. So like what you said you did, that's what I did. I always look it from my computer, immediately look at the email address. You always find out that the email address is fishy. We might look at the email address. Yeah, so thank you for that. Does anybody have anything to contribute before we move on to
The email
the next one?
address. Yeah, I just wanted to quickly say the email address I got from PayPal was absolutely right, except it was paypal.com, but I think they have a different domain, but it was absolutely perfect. But I also wanted to say, because we are now all forced to use electronic commerce, right? We're all ordering online. All of these things that we depend on, we want to order our next groceries. They hit us at the wrong time when we're stressed, we're busy, and of course we want the account to work, so we're going to make a mistake.
Yeah. So Ralph, I can see you smiling, and I think you want to contribute to that.
Now, you know, we did run more than 1,000 audits in companies, in hospitals, in R&D, financial institutes, and so on. And about 80% of the results are very similar. About 20% are depending on leadership or on business cases in the organizations. And many of those companies use the cloud without control or have concerns about using it. So in the data protection reports, we provide evidence on how cloud solutions can become used very correctly and securely. So the level of security in the cloud is often much more higher in the cloud than in the local infrastructure inside the companies, means of the responsibles. And if you ask me what are the risks of and challenges of cloud computing, I guess users are fully overwhelmed with the new possibilities. They have so many more opportunities and possibilities in using Microsoft Teams and all the stuff of 360 World and all the other cloud solutions, but they're not trained on it. They have no awareness campaigns on it. It's caused by the pandemic situation. It must be very, very fast, go home and still stay and work. And they have no guidelines and no awareness campaigns on keeping things secure. So I guess that the users need clear rules of conduct, how to face it and how to handle all these new technologies. And additionally, we have some legal challenges, of course, for responsible persons inside the European Union for the use in non-European Union area. Just a few days ago, I met the Works Council, and they fear about giving the data into the US cloud solutions. But there is no need to fear. It's just a lot of unsecureness, and they need a concrete data protection impact analysis by fully skilled data protection officers with a huge technology knowledge, and then write down the data protection impact analysis and hand it over to the management to bring it in a safe harbor, I would say, but in a different meaning. So this is really strange, actually, to a lot of managers, not only in Germany, but also in other inside EU countries. They fear about the change, about the responsibility, because this is different. And there are a lot of voices out there that says it's totally unsecure, but this is not the right position. The right position is that a lot of cloud solutions bring more security to the companies than inside IT infrastructure solutions, I get, but don't forget their own users.
Yeah,
Okay,
Ralph, I got to agree with that 100%. In fact, one thing we've seen is people using tools like Teams, they haven't been told you shouldn't be sending confidential files through that thing. So they're sharing files back and forth, and we're saying, no, that's not what you do. And then the other thing.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that.
We've implemented data. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go on.
Yeah, a few years ago, we've implemented data protection regulations in Europe, and it was a big fuss that time. Now we are in the situation in which nobody cares about marketing, we are victims right now. Yeah, we are victims of marketing because it's a different world, and us as a data protection officer, or the ones who needs to regulate or to help regulate the situation in our areas, we need to stand up and find the solutions, as COVID is not going very, very soon, and we need to put in place what data protection is telling us. the regulation is telling us to put in place and to adapt to the situation in which we are right now.
Okay,
I
thank
think
you
this
then.
is a point start.
Yeah, so let me just tell our audience you'll be getting a poll. Just please respond to that, and then we'll give you the answer later. So you will see a poll come up later in the course of this day. So the poll is already there now. So if you just answer that, and then the poll will close in a minute or so, and then we can share the result with you later. So just going on from there, maybe we'll wait. Let's just wait a couple of maybe a minute or so for people to answer the slide, answer the question. Sorry. Okay. Okay. Then so I think just hold on. I don't know if the poll has gone off. If it has been completed, I saw it gone off. Nothing. Yeah, it's just gone off again. So okay, guys, thank you for that, Anthony. I think you're the one left. So with that, I'll just let me ask you as well what you've seen around data retention. If data retention in the cloud, is it done effectively? Has it been implemented? Have you been involved in implementing that, or what are your thoughts around data retention?
So we see this quite often as an issue as well with cloud solutions being implemented exactly.
Sorry, Anthony. I was meant to say Abdul Malak. I'm so sorry for that.
Okay, good.
Because
Yeah.
we've left him out.
He was kind of quiet, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I'll hand the mic over.
Yeah, Abdul Malak.
Okay.
Just want to get your thoughts on that as well?
The second question or the first one?
The second one. We're looking at data retention now to see if you have any experience around that.
Yes, actually, when talking about cloud services, well, actually, I have two considerations actually. So two kinds of clouds, what I call personally own cloud and service clouds. For example, talking about consulting firms worldwide, for example, like Big Four, we have some tooling that are used globally. So in this case, it's really easy to implement data retention and everything you want. But for example, when you are using an international cloud service, I don't want to mention any names, then it's not really sure that you are implementing the right data retention the way you want. So this is why I want to highlight that maybe it's the moment when signing the contract to add the clauses necessary to comply with all the regulations and the laws locally and internationally.
Okay, that's perfect. So because we have a lot to go through, I would just maybe move on to the other questions. I mean, we're looking at the responsibility of organization at the controller generally. Are we going to say now? I mean, what do we think are the responsibility of the controller? And also, we'll link that to looking at the security risk. Does it actually outweigh the benefit of cloud? So we're going to take the two last questions. We'll take them together because I think both of them are interwoven. So we won't be able to discuss the organization responsibility in isolation from looking at the risk from working from home. So anybody can jump on this without me pointing and calling names.
So I think storing data in the cloud is more efficient and more cheaper right now. Let's face it. And till now, probably this solution wasn't taken by everybody. But as we are going on with the innovation and the technology innovation mostly, for sure it would be a solution taken by most companies. So in this respect, every company needs to take a look again and update the roles of the controller and the processor when something will be changed as much as in a database changing solution. So I think that's the most important aspect here, to update the roles in the company based on the changes they are facing.
Okay. Then do you think that the security risk outweigh the benefit of working remotely from home, being that we're talking about cloud now?
There are also risks on working on cloud, but we need to face them and we need to find the mitigations for each of them. So it's again the responsibility of the organizations and also the way they design the data protection inside their organization.
Okay, that's good.
That's the key. I mean, you just said it, Manuela. That's the key. I think the horse has left the barn. Everyone's working on the cloud now, and with everything's cloud based. So,
Yeah.
I mean, pretty soon we're going to be cloud based. We're going to be avatars talking to each other in different universes. So, yes, there's still risks, but to be honest, especially when we talk about these big cloud providers, they have better security than a lot of companies. So think about what happened to the pandemic. There was a lockdown. Certain businesses had to immediately put their presence online. Do you think they have security? Do you think they have privacy measures? No, they just had to make money. They had to stay afloat. So cloud providers, the big ones, are way more organized and way more secure and way more data protection ready to be able to respond to requests for retrieving data, corrections, whatever you have. They are way more prepared for that than anyone else that just created a service online recently.
Okay. So that's good then. Does anybody want to contribute before we move on to the next slide?
Yeah, I guess it is a big effort to the companies to bring evidence, as Article 5 sentence 2 of GDPR says, to the responsible. So you have to bring evidence on what have you done to keep data under control, even you store it in the cloud solution. This is really a strong thing. Maybe you can keep the keys of an encrypted database. You have to manage them by yourself in your companies, and you keep control. And this is one part of evidence. And you have to distinguish between public cloud and private cloud and housing and hosting and all the different things, and even a manager in a company cannot distinguish between all these differences, and you can run inside the cloud. But during all the audits we run, we found that not even one company has a full backup concept. It's a shame. It's incredible. So data are sometimes more secure inside a private cloud than in your local IT. It's incredible. But as I said in the beginning, you have to bring a lot of awareness to the users, not only how to handle with IT equipment, even the behavior in public areas, having a phone call and a video call with an open window in your home. This is nothing about data privacy and data protection at all. It's just common sense to me, but the people need awareness campaigns on this. This is the key to me, to keep the people inside the guardrail, something like this, to bring them give them some work instructions, some policies, and train it to them. And on the other hand, you can keep control on the data you store inside a cloud solution.
Okay, thank you very much. I think what I would pick from this in regard to responsibility of the controller and the process, I think what the best they can do basically is to first of all see how they can conduct or complete a due diligence on those cloud provider that they're using. But you completing due diligence, it's something on its own. Whether they're telling you the truth or they just want to tell you what you want to hear, it's a different case. Okay, thank you guys. So let us now look at what I'll call the elephant in the room that have been around in the last couple of months, which is the STREM 2. Do you think they have the lawful basis of processing? What do you think will be the best form of the cloud provider to process those data? I know we have the SSC, which is standard contractual clauses. So and we want to look at what is the effect of the running on the data transfer in the cloud. What would this the judgment of STREM 2 put on the cloud providers? So Amalia, maybe you look as if you're ready for to go.
Well, I just wanted to say that there's been quite a concerted effort for the big cloud providers to come together and create a code of conduct, which I think is a very good idea, and it really is starting to go in the right direction. Because think about it, 10 years ago, if I was nobody, mom and pop shop, I decided to go online and I said I need Microsoft, whatever, or if I was let's say a medium-sized company, and I would go to Microsoft or Salesforce or I don't know, anyone that was in the business for a long time, and I say, well, I want to do an audit on your privacy and security controls. They would just look at you and say, go away, I don't have time for you. But now we are looking at a code of conduct, because now the law is saying, wait a minute, you cannot transfer data unless you meet all these requirements, and unless your laws in your country don't interfere with the data, there's no surveillance, etc. So I think now we're opening the dialogue. Many years ago, I presented with the ISACA organization at a session, and our session was called "There Are Giants in the Sky," and it was exactly about these cloud providers, that they don't want to talk to you, that they've posted all their assessments online, and that's it. It's done. They don't. You're like, you're buying or you're not buying.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Abdul Malak, do you want to have you have something you want to add to that? I think his internet is a bit simple. So I'll open it to anybody that wants to contribute to it, basically.
Yeah, the situation.
Go on, Ralph.
Go on, Ralph.
You're welcome. You know, the situation in Germany is also very strong on Schrems too. I guess the supervisor authorities in Germany, and you know, we have 16 local supervisor authorities in Germany.
Wow.
So it's quite a different situation from other EU countries. This is similar, sometimes very crazy, because you know, the southern area has another opinion than the northern area, or the eastern area, or the western area in Germany, and all the companies are in between and says, oh yes, I'm totally confused. I don't know what's the right way to handle with, for instance, 365 solutions. So the supervisor authorities in Germany all refer, of course, to the SECs, we all know, but they demand additional measures, but without becoming more specific. And so a lot of the responsibles of these companies don't know how to handle. So the opinions, especially on 365s, are very, very different and lead to even more confusion in public and private areas. And I guess as a result, the responsibles are very, very uncertain, and good data protection officers are some kind of pilots and prepare data protection decisions like data protection impact assessments for the management. And this is a combination, finally, of technical measures, of organizational measures, of strategic ideas, of legal requirements, and mix all of it. And finally, you have some encryption on it, and some awareness, and some business lines, some guidelines, and the mix all of it reduces the risk. And finally, you can make a decision and says, okay, I keep the final risk under my control, and I accept the final risk. And so I can go into the cloud, or I may not use this specific cloud solution. And this is very, very unique for every company. Crazy. It's really crazy, actually.
Yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for bringing that. I've always thought that the Germans, they have 8 supervisory authority. It's good to know. That's what
they multiplied overnight.
Yeah, they multiplied. So it's good to bring that. Abdul Malak, I mean, I've just asked you a question before your connection dropped off, because you've been a bit quiet. Just want to give you the opportunity to speak as well. What do you think about this trend to law in regard to processing of data in the cloud, and what do you think will be the effect of transferring data in the cloud?
Yes, actually, we have had issues regarding that, because sometimes we had, well, actually, we had some transfer of data without our consent, and we have some issues with some clients. So yes, fortunately, we have this kind of law, and now we have more control about this, and we have more awareness regarding this. So as I said beforehand, so especially we are now more aware about contracting with service provider.
Okay. Anthony, do you have anything before we move on to the next slide? Do you have anything you want to contribute?
I've had to audit a few cloud service providers in the last few years, especially on the US side of the border with Canada here. And we never take their SOC reports, for example, at face value, because SOC reports are generated by people who may or may not be trained in security. They're generated by accountant experts, which forgive my prejudice, but unless you have training in security and you have experience in it, you shouldn't be auditing it. So we always ask
or privacy,
for
which
evidence.
they have even less.
Yeah, absolutely. We always ask for the evidence that they used, that they provided, and then we check it ourselves.
That's good. So maybe we'll just briefly run through these points to see. I mean, we can take it in whichever order you want to take it, just because of our time. So I'll leave this slide on the screen. Let us pick, say, for example, the GDPR and COVID-19 pandemic. I mean, you guys have answered some of those questions. You've touched on it. Working from remote. So when we look at data security, we look at the system update and the network limitation. What do you think is, how can we leverage GDPR with this current situation? How can we help this current situation with GDPR laws that are in place?
It's just that right now we are not prepared yet. So COVID came at the beginning of the year. We are at the end of the year and we are not prepared yet. Because
we failed the pandemic test, yes.
Exactly, we failed it. And because of every time we are thinking maybe next month will be over, maybe next time, well, and it's not. So we are not prepared. And what we want to emphasize here is that we need to find solutions, and we need to update GDPR for working remotely because it's our reality right now. And we've discussed about data security already on some of the points out there. In short, we need to find ways. I don't know if we need a regulation for it, or every company needs to adapt, or every industry needs to adapt. But we need to find ways in order to put in place every measure that GDPR has highlighted in our new reality. This is this is in short.
Okay, that's good. I get what you've just said. That you've talked about how we now need to maybe consider putting policies, or consider putting another structure or another regulation to govern this situation. So thank you for that, Manuela. So anybody wants to pick it up? I don't want to be calling people's name constantly. So anybody can just jump on it.
Yeah, I'm fully fine with you, Manuela. But you know, actually, we're under the second wave, as we call it in Germany. It was the second wave of the pandemic, and companies responsible has wasted and lose time since the first wave. They didn't use the time properly to prepare for the second wave, and I guess we will have a third and a fourth wave. I don't know how effective this becomes, but we have to use the time we have to prepare our companies, the responsibles, and even the workers, the people inside the companies, the employees, to handle with new technologies, with their new way to work at home and mobile places, in the companies, at the customer side. So everything is going to change. And yeah, this is a very special situation to our generation right now, but it can be handled. But the people have to use the time to prepare. And in summertime, they just enjoy the time, but did work on this very hard. So this is wasted time.
Okay, that's good. Okay, go on then, Abdelmalak.
Okay, so I had to say that, but actually the COVID-19 was the opportunity to grab the attention of the senior management through three aspects, which is the business continuity, information security, and the data privacy, of course. And by talking about the senior management, we're talking about authority and budget, of course. And I guess it's also the opportunity to lead some training and awareness to key people, and also to mind the contracts with providers. And I'm seeing third-party providers, and here I wanted to say that why not verifying the service of all the service provider, and why not including, for example, a clause of right to audit, for example, service provider, because sometimes we have no assurance that the provider will separate the data hosted in a separate virtual machine or even a server, or etc. And also, why not checking their certification, for example, against laws, regulation, or at least certification like PCI DSS for payment cards, or ISO 27001, 27701, etc. So I guess it's a good opportunity. And finally, talking about remote working remotely, because actually it's not something new at our firm. I don't want to mention the name, but we used to work with the remote work policy, but it's also trying to refresh that policy and to adapt it to the new situation, because I don't know, but I believe it will long for a while.
Okay, that's perfect. So just to jump to, I have one question on the chat here from a user. We said he said you discuss the user side. How about risk associated from an organization perspective? So does anybody wants to answer this question? I mean, look as if we were talking about the user, but we'll not actually talk directly on how this affects organization, or rather their organization perspective.
The worst thing I've seen so far on the organization side is organizations that just port their existing infrastructure into the cloud, their existing practices, without doing change management and planning for that transition. Because there's a right and a wrong way to use the cloud services, especially if you're using cloud storage or platform as a service or anything like that in the cloud. And there are hardening guidelines and best practices to apply to every cloud provider's environment, like container security, for example. It's often overlooked. And that's a great attack vector for a hacker to come in through the containers you've got set up in the cloud and skip around all of your permissions by using backdoor permissions you've left enabled. So there's a lot of that stuff that should happen at the organizational level.
Okay. Anybody want to add to that?
So I just recently read an article about and this is actually very sad, about a COVID application in the Philippines that was actually a platform for a medical staff to collaborate with scientists. And of course that was breached. And of course there's patients' medical information that was breached. So we're also seeing the fact that the cloud platform is overloaded. And so as anything that is overloaded, it's quantity over quality. So that is another aspect that we have not had before, where we're now in the middle of the pandemic, we have scientific work exposed, we have patient records exposed at a completely different scale than we had before.
Okay, that's so. And just considering working from home, would you be advising organizations now to go back and review, if they've not done it so far, to go and review their data protection impact assessment, basically to see what kind of risk when working from home, or kind of risk the employee will be introducing, because the more you work from home, the more you're going to get this phishing email that we've talked about, which is going to lead to, say, organizations training their employees as well, because I mean, you consider that this phishing and this social engineering messages have, I would say, not double, maybe triple or quadruple even since this lockdown. So would you be advising organizations to review their impact assessments again and look at the risk and put in mitigation circumstances for those risks that they've identified?
You mean assuming they've done a data privacy impact assessment before?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
most of these processes are new and they've never done a DPIA on them before. Yeah,
so now, I mean, what I'm going to that point is that even though if they've done DPI in some areas, now because they will be forced to get people to work from home, should they be doing a new impact assessment again, or do they just take it that IT will put security measures in place?
I think your point is excellent. They absolutely have to do.
At least a refresh.
Yeah, they have to extend. Yeah, they have to reopen this, and they have to extend, and they have to train, and they have. This is another and there's another impact on data privacy and data protection, and so they have to reopen the impact assessment and to extend it. Yeah, of course. Version 2.
Okay, that's good. I see Abdul Malak, you wanted to say something on that?
No. But just I said that at least a refresh should be done for the DPIA, but not let it as it was beforehand.
Okay. Okay, that's good. That's a good discussion. I have some other points that I wanted to also touch on, which I call it as reserve questions in case we didn't have time to complete our discussion. So I would say we still have a couple of minutes, about 5 minutes to look at that. So when we look at the unintended consequence of GDPR, I mean, looking at data theft, if we want to discuss identity theft and identity fraud, what do you think organizations should be looking at? How would they get around this? We've touched on it about you working from home, getting this constant bombardment of phishing email and social media email. How do you think organizations should go around it, protecting their own network and also their employee working from home?
I think this pandemic is giving cybersecurity a big deal of work right now, as we are more and more unprotected. Us as persons and our identities as well. It's not only the companies, but ourselves and our families. It's up to us to protect, but firstly, we do not know how. Secondly, we are not aware of any prejudice or any risks that we are facing in the cloud, in the network outside. And third, again, the lack of communication in media about what it's possible to be done. So again, a communication strategy on these aspects should be done everywhere, as we are vulnerable right now. What the company should be done is to protect, of course, their databases, but it's more about each of us, not only company.
Okay.
I wanted to add, I think Manuela has an incredibly important point there. I think it's the governments have all been communicating about the pandemic, and even there, I have to say it's all about the one virus, and they're not even talking about, well, what are people doing about other medical conditions. That's like, no, we're all very healthy now, nothing else matters but the pandemic. But to be honest, and what Manuela was saying is, the governments should actually communicate to people guidelines on how to stay secure at home, how to use technology securely. Why the governments? Because in the end, their infrastructure as a country is at risk. Everything that we do online, any attack can be compounded, and in the end, the whole country can go down. The whole infrastructure of that country can go down. So I teach a course at University of Toronto on IT cybersecurity risk management, and a student brought up the point about the US elections and how, because they also have an office that is dedicated to the Office of Personnel Management, dedicated to vetting people, giving them clearances from all over the world, how that can be subject to a massive attack during the election. So it's about these events that will make countries weaker and their infrastructure. So we're not educating each individual, which could be the point of failure at all at the country level. And I think that's wrong.
Okay, that's fine. Anybody else? Go on, Abdul Malak.
Well, what I would advise corporates actually. Sorry.
Go on.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So what I would advise corporates actually is to focus more on the human factor and not on technology. Most importantly, leading, for example, awareness, trainings, but also making them actually accountable of their acts through NDAs to be signed or proof of attendance to those trainings and awareness sessions.
Okay, Lucas. Okay, Anthony, do you have? Oh, Raf, Dr. Raf, you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, to me, it's very amazing when we're talking about identity fraud. If you're checking up, for instance, the dark net about your own identity, where you find your compromised identity, your personal identity, it's incredible. It's so interesting, but it makes, yeah, it's really amazing, and it brings fears to the people. Companies are starting checking the identities of the employees inside the darknet, whether they need to set up new identities or not. Crazy times, isn't it? So this is a side effect on all the cloud solutions actually running and being used by the companies. They fear on getting compromised by wrong identities stolen on the web and dealt in the dark net.
Okay, that's perfect. I think I have another question again here because maybe we're a bit running out of time, which says, how do you ask the big cloud service provider that you need to audit them? That is, if you do not accept the face value of what their assessment is. I think somebody touched on it briefly, but maybe if you just want to expand on that further again. Anybody can pick that up. Anthony, you want to pick and want to start? Or?
Sure. Yeah. Dealing with the larger ones like AWS and Azure, I've just gone right ahead and talked to their security team. They'll throw all their SOC reports at me and their certificates and everything, and I'll just say, look, for this customer, this is how they're doing using your services. This is how they're doing implementation. I want to know that that implementation is secure. The rest of your stuff is fantastic, but I want to know that their use of your services is secure. So I'll run through the specifics of the implementation for that customer. And I haven't had a problem yet with getting responses out of either AWS or Azure as the two biggest ones. And the local, the more regional type cloud providers, because there's dozens of others, you know, in any region in the world that provide cloud services. They're always keen to talk to me about that stuff because they learn what they can do with regards to security as a result of being checked.
Okay, that's good. Thank you for that. Anybody want to have any contribution they want to add to that? Okay, so let's go to the next question then, because there's a question here to say, hold on, what's that question? It says, yeah, okay, that's the question I just read. And let me just go through if we have any other specific question. Okay, I think that's all the question we got now. Let me just see if I can bring out the poll of the answers to the poll. Okay, it's just coming up now. So where can I find that result now? Sorry, I can't see that. I can see the answer to the poll.
The answer is
have,
no.
Yes, we can see it. Maybe you cannot as you are sharing your screen.
Yeah,
so the answer is no for exactly 79% said no.
Okay.
Yeah, said yes.
Thanks for that, because I couldn't see that. So yes, just a final note on our discussion. Just want to thank you all for finding your time. We've spent well over 50 minutes in this discussion. I know this discussion we can discuss it for the whole day. We will not be able to come to a final conclusion. But I just want to thank you all for having the time to give us your experience and try to articulate what might happen in terms of the cloud providers and working from home. So thank you all once again. Hope hopefully, when we go past this pandemic period, we'll be able to see each other face to face. Hopefully, very, very,
In
very soon.
Copenhagen?
Sure.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the matter,
Go-
just not to be online, to be physically
Face to face.
somewhere
Yeah.
together. It would be very nice.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you all for joining again. And yes, I will pass this over to John. Are you there? Do you want us to just close it, or you want to have a final word?